Welcome friends to another r/Am I the Jerk here video. Would you be a jerk for refusing to be a wet nurse for your own niece? We'll find out in our first story from Independent Gift 3897. Am I the jerk for not wanting to breastfeed my niece? Me and my sisters were pregnant at the same time. She was due in March, had hers April 10th. I was due in May, had mine May 7th. We talked about breastfeeding when we were both pregnant, and we agreed that we both wanted to breastfeed for many reasons. When she had my niece, she decided breastfeeding wasn't for her, and I supported her 100%. I had my son, and breastfeeding was the best option for me. Me and my sister lived together, and sometimes she'll take the milk I freeze for my son. At first I didn't have a problem with it because I had plenty of milk, but she started going overboard with it. She'll take milk that I specifically say not to. I asked her if she wanted me to pump for her, and she said yes, so I started doing that. Since I pump so much because I have to feed 2 babies, I started producing so much milk that I'm just so sore and overfilled. I try to pump more, but that just makes me produce more and more. I started pumping less and just feeding him directly, and my sister would just come up and get my niece to latch on me as well. Like she will literally take my other boob out and put my niece on it. At first I let her, but then it just started feeling like she thought I was obligated to do it because when I didn't want to, she would get mad. She tried to put my niece on me earlier, and I just told her that I didn't want to breastfeed my niece anymore, and she should stop because at this point, it's getting weird. She got mad and was like, "You know how badly I wanted to breastfeed my niece, and breast milk is so much better for a baby. If you loved her, you would do it." Yet again, I told her no. My sister chose not to breastfeed. I chose to do it. I shouldn't have to always feed my niece every couple of hours when I'm trying to give myself a break because my son's on me most of the darn day. I'm starting to feel bad because I do want my niece to be healthy, but shoot, she's a darn baby and she doesn't know the difference between milk and formula. She's getting her nutrition anyways and she's a healthy darn baby. Am I the jerk? Would you guys agree with me that everything that went down in the story was closer than most sisters ever need to have been? The sister actually going to do the physical act of taking OP out and getting the niece to latch onto them. Like almost as if they're taking their baby to the milk gas station and just pulling the nozzle out. I think OP's not the jerk, but this is extremely weird, right? I'm not the odd one out. Let me know in the comments. Our next story is from Relationship Fine 8592. Am I the jerk for making my wife order off the kids menu or share a meal with me? My wife has never been a big eater. That's fine and I don't have a problem with it. What I do have a problem with is that my wife is somehow also a greedy eater. She always prefers a large variety of foods together at a time, just in smaller portions. At home, this is annoying, but it's manageable. When we go out to eat though, it becomes a nightmare. She will order whatever can get her the most variety of options, ignoring the cost. She'll add sides, appetizers, and desserts to her meal, only to eat 1 or 2 bites of each thing she orders. Maybe this would be manageable if she ate leftovers, but she refuses to do so, so all the food just ends up going to waste. Most of the time, I find myself ordering small meals and eating what remains of her orders just to try and justify it. But I don't like 90% of what she orders and just want to eat my own darn meal. A week ago, I got incredibly annoyed when she ordered herself a full rack of ribs and an appetizer, only to eat like 20% of each. I only ordered a salad so I could finish the rest off, but I hated the sauces she chose for the ribs, and most of the appetizer went untouched. As we were leaving, I told her that I'm sick of spending $40+ on her alone for food that she doesn't end up finishing. I told her that from now on, she can either order 2 things off the kids menu, or we can work out something we both will enjoy and share. She ignored me and thought I wasn't serious. Well, last night we went out to a wing place. As we sat down, I asked for a kids menu and she got confused. When we started talking and I told her that she either needed to order off the kids menu or share with me, she got quiet and refused to talk to me and started saying that I'm insulting and belittling her. We ended up going out into the parking lot and having a fight before she got an Uber home. She's not talking to me now, and this morning I got a call from her dad screaming at me for what I did. I'm having second thoughts now about this. I think OP's not the jerk. I think the wife just has an inability to deal with the reality that they're being extremely wasteful with food. And not just food, but money, and also think about all the other people that could have eaten that food that they're just taking basically nibbles off of and then dumping. I think if you went on a date and you saw this, I think that would be enough to upset just about anyone, and just because they don't want to deal with it and they're offended and hurt that you find it to be a problem, which it is, doesn't make OP the jerk. This next story is from Jasmine T20. Am I the jerk? I did a bridal photo shoot a week after my brother's wedding, which upset my sister-in-law. I, 25-year-old female, am a hotel receptionist and I do modeling on the side. I did a bridal gown photo shoot 3 weeks before my brother's wedding, but the ad came yesterday. It was for a local boutique, which isn't really big. They have maybe 2 branches in our region. My brother Simon, 30, got married last week, but they postponed their honeymoon because of his job. So when the ad came out yesterday, my sister-in-law Nancy, 29-year-old female, saw it. A medium-sized LED screen in the shopping center. I also posted some photos on my Instagram account. She called me and asked why I have bridal photos in the city center, and I told her I got an offer to model bridal gowns for this boutique. I then asked her what she thought of my photos. Honestly, I was expecting feedback like, "You looked beautiful," or "The gowns looked good on you," but instead she yelled at me on the phone and accused me of being jealous of her. I was surprised because Nancy and I are really friendly with each other. I didn't expect her to blow up on me like that. She hung up on me, and a few minutes later I got a call from her sister, who sounded really upset with me for stealing her sister's thunder. I told her Nancy's wedding was literally 7 days ago, so why are they accusing me of stealing her thunder? We got into a verbal altercation. She called me names, I retaliated, and called her names before I hung up. Last night I saw a TikTok video about the whole situation, and a lot of Nancy's friends are siding with her. They said I was jealous of the bride, that's why I did the photo shoot. They're also commenting nasty things on my Instagram, so I had to turn the comment section off. I asked Simon to talk to his wife, but he wants nothing to do with it. Am I missing something here? Because, quite frankly, I don't understand why I'm a jerk. I think OP's definitely not the jerk, and I'm as stunned as they are. I don't understand what here there is to be jealous about. It's a modeling gig. It's not like OP went and sought this work and was like, "Please, let me model for you because I'm so jealous." The amount of insecurity on display here is insane, and frankly, I would be very, very upset at Simon for not talking to their wife about this because it is so clearly raging insecurity. Literally none of it is OP's fault in any way. By the way, if you're enjoying these stories, make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons down below so you never miss any of my daily videos. Every single video has awesome stories like our next one from Appropriate Area 311. Am I the jerk for putting the truck in my name? I'm female 20 and my fiance is male 23. We bought a 90s car that needed some work. He got it fixed and he started driving me places in it. When I would ask or showed I wanted to drive it, he got very upset about it. I never got to drive it, but his friends have. We ended up splitting for a minute over it. I recently put a down payment on a 2022 Toyota Tacoma double cab. I went with my uncle to get it, and when I signed for it, I put it in my name and my uncle co-signed for it. When I pulled in with it, he came outside smiling from ear to ear. He hugged me and thanked me for getting him his dream truck. I was trying to explain to him it was mine, but he'd already jumped into it. He had then seen the paperwork laying there and asked if he needed to sign it. Before I could answer, he read whose name it was in. He slowly got out and went in the house. He didn't speak to me for the rest of the night. While he was at work, he texted me and said, "It's really disrespectful that you got my dream truck and didn't put it in my name. I'll be staying at my mom's tonight." I didn't respond. Later on, he sent me a picture of a GMC asking if it was pretty. I said, "I didn't like GMC, but if he liked it, it's pretty." He said, "Well, doesn't matter, you got the Toyota." So I just left him on red. He has yet to come home and I'm regretting getting the truck. So am I the jerk? I think OP's not the jerk here. Now, as far as everything goes, I think there's some pretty big red flags being shown here. I'm just saying OP should think carefully about where things are headed because, to me, the fiancé is acting like they're 13, not 23. Our next story is from Flaky Damage 3433. Am I the jerk for using a squirt bottle for cats on my nephew? My nephew Michael just finished his sophomore year and is 15 years old. Due to circumstances that I would rather not discuss on Reddit, I am Michael's legal guardian at the moment. The only real issue I've had with Michael is the fight to get him out of bed every morning on time for school. I made him set an alarm on his phone, but he just about always would turn it off and then sleep in. I would try putting Ravioli, my cat, on his chest, but Michael would just swat her away. I learned that my sister would oftentimes let Michael lay in until it was 11, then drop him off at school and lie that she had car troubles so it would be an excused late arrival. It took me throwing off his blankets and physically dragging him out of bed by his foot for Michael to get up. I was running late for work one morning and Michael was refusing to get up again. I didn't have time to drag Michael out of bed and I told him this. Michael was not budging, so I grabbed a squirt bottle that I used to house train my cats, filled it in the sink, and then squirted Michael with it until he got up. He got out of bed and ran to the bathroom in under 30 seconds. A huge improvement from 10 minutes of playing tug-of-war with Michael. I started to use the spray bottle every morning until he actually started using his alarm and getting up on time. I and Michael were visiting my cousin Lucinda, and Michael made a joke like, "I don't want Uncle Sean to spray me again." Lucinda asked for elaboration, then scolded me on the way home, saying that using the squirt bottle was demeaning to Michael and that I'm treating my nephew like an animal. I don't see it that way at all. I simply can't drag him out of bed every morning. If we were both a decade younger, it might have been possible, but Michael's 15 and he's a big kid at that. Plus, now he's getting up on his own. Am I the jerk for using a squirt bottle for cats on Michael? I don't think OP's the jerk for using the squirt bottle for cats. I think if it works, that's great. I think what's more important is how OP treats Michael literally every other moment besides using that squirt bottle. Like, if OP is supportive and loving and caring and does what they can, doesn't abuse or treat Michael bad in any way besides, "Hey, if you don't get up out of bed, I'm gonna spray you with a squirt bottle," I don't see the problem with it, and it actually turned out to be a productive thing. It worked, and Michael was only joking about referring to it, so no harm, no foul. This next story is from Throwaway 6478467. Am I the jerk for refusing to make my husband another cup of coffee after he purposely dropped the first one? I'm female 26. My husband, male 31, woke up not in the mood this morning and told me to make him a cup of coffee before he went to work. I went and made it with extra sugar, just like how he always likes it. But when I handed it to him and he tasted it, he made a face and said it was too sweet. I told him this is how he usually has it, but he said he wasn't in a good mood today and told me to make another one. Mind you, I was already 20 minutes late for work. I told him no and that he already had one and should just drink it. Next thing I knew, he dropped the cup on the floor purposely and said that he no longer has it and I should go ahead and make another one. I refused, and then we had an argument and I just walked out. He texted me a bunch later saying I disrespected him and forced him to not have his daily coffee by acting stubborn and having an attitude. Then reminded me of how much work he's picked and how much time and rest he's sacrificed in order to help me while I was recovering from the birth of our son, and that was just the first week. Then I had to get up. He said I owed him and that I should have returned at least one of his many favors instead of deciding to ruin his day. I came home and he's here refusing to even look at me. Am I the jerk? Should I have taken just 5 minutes to make him another one? I think OP's not the jerk, and to me, this sounds like the kind of thing that a marriage 30 years into the marriage is experiencing, where the husband's all grumpy and angry at the world, complaining about the littlest things like, "Oh, you can't just do this one thing for me." Depending on how the husband is, I don't know if you'll ever truly get through to them. But man, sometimes you just want to tell these kinds of people to just get over perpetuating the not in the mood mornings. You woke up and you decided that you're not in the mood. So you just choose to be an a-hole to everybody because, "Oh, sorry, hon, I'm having one of my a-hole mornings. You're gonna just have to deal with me being a total jerk because I woke up that way and that's just how it's gonna be. There's no way I'll ever be able to change that." Our next story is from TA Mother Baby 3. Am I the jerk for telling my mother she shouldn't have brought her new baby in pregnancy at a family dinner after my wife miscarried? The title alone might make me sound like a total jerk, so here's the context. I'm 28-year-old male, happily married to my wife Sarah, 31. We've been together for over 6 years and married for 3 years. My mother Laura, 45, had me pretty early on. She always wanted a big family and has been together with my dad since they were 14. After she had me, she decided to be a stay-at-home mother, and in the space of the next 10 years, had a total of 7 kids, so I have loads of siblings. She's recently announced that I'm to become a brother again. Me and Sarah have been struggling to conceive for the past 3 years. We really would like to have a kid together and considered surrogacy, but my family kind of talked us out, saying we shouldn't trust our child with some unknown woman. I've suggested that my mother or my sister become our surrogate if they're that worried, but both of them declined, saying that they can't have any more children and won't be able to carry. My sister has 5 kids. And just to note, I love Sarah regardless if we have a child or not, and I'm willing to adopt, but she really wants us to have our own. Me and Sarah have tried a lot of options, and recently, unfortunately, she had another miscarriage. And this was really upsetting and depressing for both of us. I've shown my support, and my mother, who knew all about our struggles in recent miscarriage, invited us out for dinner at her house yesterday, which Sarah wanted to attend as she's in a very good relationship with my mother. My entire family was there and the dinner was going well. Sarah congratulated my mother on her pregnancy and I thought that will be it. Then my sister announced that she's pregnant again. And basically her and my mother ended up having the baby talk really loudly, where my sister was excited to have another brother and my mother wanted to have another grandchild. That was too much for Sarah. So she got up and left in tears, and I followed her shortly after. She had to cut off her family because they kept telling her she's not a woman for not being able to have children and is too old, and this gets to her too much. After we got home, my mother called me and said Sarah behaved herself very rudely, and she's expecting an apology as it ruined the dinner to celebrate life. I got angry and told her that she was completely out of line and inconsiderate for having the baby talk with my sister when she knew Sarah had another miscarriage, and her life celebration dinner made things a lot worse for both Sarah and I. I've also said that if she told us what the dinner was, we wouldn't have come. At the end, I was called a jerk for not appreciating another life being born. Am I the jerk? I was a little on the fence on this one until the last couple of lines. Once it was revealed that this was a life celebration dinner, and that was never discussed or disclosed up front to somebody who just recently miscarried, OP's definitely not the jerk, and both the mom and the sister were totally clueless in this. Just totally out of touch. Our next story is from OK Struggle 3081. Am I the jerk for threatening to fire my fiancé? I, 35-year-old male, and my fiancé, 25-year-old female, work at the same bar together. That's actually how we met, was when she started working there 4 years ago. I asked her on a date not long after, and we've been together ever since. Currently, my fiancé is 33 weeks pregnant. While I understand working and being on her feet is very hard for her, she's just really dropped the ball at work. Ever since she found out that she's pregnant, she's been sleeping in, showing up late, missing shifts, trying to leave early, giving away shifts last minute, and just having a bad attitude towards work in general. Yes, it's difficult for her to work now and she gets tired easily, but I really don't think it excuses her behavior. She's been named in multiple negative reviews and it's been brought up by the owners more than once. Over the weekend, she's been working during brunch, and she decided to leave early without being approved to do so. I had to come in to cover her because no one else was available. By the time I got there, multiple tables had walked out from waiting for so long since we were understaffed to begin with. I didn't get home until late since I was scheduled to close anyways, and I was furious. I slept on the couch, and when she tried to get me to come to bed, I sat her down and told her how she couldn't pull something like that again, or she would be fired. She obviously didn't like this and threw a fit, calling me names and crying about how she needs this job. She ended up going to her friend's house for the night. I know she's going through a lot, but I'm just tired of picking up the slack for her at work. So, am I the jerk? I think OP is not the jerk here, but it's a very messy situation. The elephant in the room is maternity leave sucks in the US in a lot of places, so I'm assuming that's not an option here. The real problem is being your fiance's supervisor. Like, I think by all metrics, this person would have been fired a long time ago for doing half of the stuff they did here. So as a supervisor, I think OP is completely within their right to let a person that's working that quality work go. But man, does it really put some stress on that relationship. What do you guys think? Am I wrong here? Let me know in the comments. This next story is from ThrowRA537477. Am I the jerk here for driving my daughters home in the middle of the vacation after they excluded their stepsister? I know this might sound ridiculous, but let me explain. I, 38-year-old male, have two daughters, Nora 16 and Lily 14, from my former marriage. I got married to my current wife who has a daughter, Jenna, 11. Jenna has a disability, she's in a wheelchair. Before I met her mom, her life was pretty much inside the house. She was homeschooled up until I got her in a private school, but she still struggles with socializing due to growing up isolated. My wife didn't want to, but I pushed for Jenna to get therapy, which I hoped would help with her relationship with Nora and Lily. But the girls took their time to get to know her. Yes, they did exclude her from activities, but I had several sit-downs with them in hopes of getting them to understand that Jenna is a normal girl and has so much in common with them, so they shouldn't feel like she's difficult just because of her disability. I thought things were getting better, but days ago, and while we were at a beach resort for 4 days, Jenna stayed with us while the girls kept going out. During our second day, I saw the girls getting ready to go get ice cream. I asked Jenna if she wanted to join them and she said yes. I asked them to take her with them and they were unsure at first, but then took her. An hour later, my wife came to me saying that Jenna called her, saying the girls left her near one of the benches and told her to wait for 5 minutes till they get ice cream, but didn't come back. We went there immediately, found Jenna sitting alone while the girls were eating ice cream and hanging out at a different location. I got so mad at them, especially after they admitted to leaving her there. I told them the vacation was over for them and had them pack up their stuff and took them home. Both of them were crying and pleading in the car while my wife and Jenna waited at the resort. I dropped the girls off and had my mom stay with them. Then I went back and resumed the vacation. Both girls and their mom were all over me about this. And their mom went on a rant about me favoring my stepdaughter over my biological ones and being a doormat for my wife. The girls were upset, but I explained why I did what I did. Their mom defended them, saying that I shouldn't force them to care for their stepsister and expect them to be her maids and stop their life for her. It got to my former in-laws who are now blaming me for ruining the much-awaited vacation for the girls and acting irrationally. My question is whether I messed up and went too far with my reaction. All I wanted was for them to be upfront and honest and not basically abandon her the way they did. I'm going to say everyone is kind of the jerk here. No doubt when they went to get ice cream and took Jenna with them, it is crazy of them to abandon and kind of set Jenna off to the side while they go eat ice cream elsewhere. But let's be real here, they're both quite a bit older than Jenna. Jenna's 11 years old and the other two are at 14 and 16. Kids with that age gap, I think they already don't often want to hang out with each other. It's also their stepsister, and also with OP forcing it like this, the kids probably just feel like it's a babysitting thing. It's one thing to have them all included in activities together, but I'm not sure the two older kids actually feel the same way about it. That all said, that does not excuse their actions with the ice cream event. Our next story is from Anxious Sprinkles 396. Am I the jerk for walking out of an interview when they would not disclose a salary to me? I'm getting mixed messages about this and a variety of opinions. Last year, I graduated with my degree in computer science. Since then, I worked on a contract for a company that's been fairly okay, but not one I plan on trying to start a career with. Since my contract ends in a month, I've been looking for full-time work. The hardest part about this, though, is fitting all the interviews in. Basically, every application I send in gets responded to, along with a handful of recruiters spamming my LinkedIn. So I've decided that if they don't tell me in the first 15 minutes of the interview what they're actually paying, I will ask. If they don't tell me in plain terms, an actual range or number, I'll thank them for their time and leave. Most of the people I've talked to will just answer the question, but I've noticed a few try to dance around it. Reply with, money isn't the most important part of a job, or some, we're family and salary isn't important BS. Because of this, out of about a dozen interviews, I've walked away from 4 this way. To at least justify this, I'm already in talks with a company and basically waiting to hear their offer, so I feel like if they're not going to give me a guess of what I could expect at this point, there's no reason for me to deal with them. Well, yesterday evening, I went up to meet with a local startup. A recruiter reached out to me and I fit every checkbox they needed and had actually built a compiler for the language they were primarily using, Python, so I was their #1 candidate. 15 minutes in, they had not talked at all about compensation, so I asked. The interviewer told me that it's bad manner to ask for a salary this early in the process. I just smiled and said that I disagree and that I wasn't going to waste my time entertaining an offer if they could not compete. He tried to argue back that they were a startup and yada yada, so I just did what I did before. Stood up, thanked him for his time, and left. Well, the recruiter blew up my phone, asking what the freak I did and who I thought I was. Apparently the owner of the company was my interviewer. I had no clue. First time I talked to the guy, and he never even mentioned that he was the owner, and he blew up at the recruiter for my behavior. The recruiter made a vague post on LinkedIn that was an attack against me but didn't name me. The comments swing from I'm in the right to a total jerk. I told my significant other, and they said that I was a jerk. So, am I the jerk? I personally feel that OP is not the jerk here. As much as it is important to do things for work that you love, I don't think anybody's kidding anybody if they try to say that it's not about the money. And frankly, if you're putting yourself out here, you're putting your resume out there, and you're trying to get involved with these companies, you don't want to waste too much time and get your hopes up, not knowing how much they're even offering to pay you. And I don't think it's a crazy assumption to assume that if they're not giving you that information, they're probably wanting to pay you a pretty crap rate. Our next story is from Kaio Kamikaze. Am I the jerk for making a real-life Pokédex of girls at my university? So freshman year of college, I began working on this project casually. I like to keep notes on women I talk to about their favorite things, activities they enjoy, gifts and candy they like, sappy crap like that. I suck at remembering things like that, so I decided to keep a spreadsheet. Eventually, after getting a handful of entries, I offhandedly mentioned it to my friend group. One had the idea that I share it with them so we could all keep new entries, as they caught different entries. So this expanded further. Right now, about 40 guys have access to it, and it's mainly the guys in my frat, and the women featured are girls from different sororities. We also added more information such as like where you should take them if you really want to impress them. We don't keep this information for any nefarious or scumbaggy reasons, just to help us know what to do if we want to impress certain girls. Like, the original idea of this was to just keep information like favorite color, so I don't forget their favorite colors. Now it's helping a lot of guys. Somehow, a girl who was on the list found out, and she was pissed the freak off. She was eventually able to trace it back to me, so I assume someone who was simping for her snitched when the Pokédex wasn't making the girl like him. So she's pissed off, and she made it out to be a guide to hooking up with women when it's most definitely not that. It's just to make impressing them on dates easier. That's it. She's made a big deal of this, telling so many girls around campus, and now they're all saying that by the start of the fall semester, none of them will be visiting our fraternity or going to our parties. Now all the guys are mad at me when I'm not even the one who told the girls about the list, and they were also all using the list. I think it's unfair to say that the list was all about sex when it wasn't at all. Am I the jerk? I think OP is more than a jerk. This is one of the creepiest things I've heard about. It's one thing if you're in a relationship with somebody to write down notes like that, but let's be real, Pokédex is a very cutesy name of saying database of women attending this college and all their favorite things so you can get in good with them. And as much as OP says that it's not for nefarious or scumbaggy reasons, I highly, sincerely, and wholeheartedly doubt that all 40 plus guys that were using this database were not using it for scumbaggy reasons. OP can say all that they want that they never used it for sex, but let's be real, every other guy that had access to this probably was. And everything I've said doesn't even touch on the whole creepiness factor of having this database anyways. Would anybody have wanted in the first place to be on this weird Pokédex database of favorite things list? It is frankly creepy and disgusting, and I don't blame any of those girls for avoiding all of them. And our final story of the day is from Throwaway BF's cousin. Am I the jerk for what I said to my BF's cousin when he said I'm a gold digger? I'm female 23. My boyfriend Kyle, male 31, is from a very wealthy family. I went no contact with my family a few years ago, so I didn't have much financial help these past few years, and I'm still struggling with money. But I have a good job and hopefully things will get better soon. But right now, Kyle helps me a lot and I really appreciate it. When Kyle introduced me to his family, some of them were extremely nice, especially his parents. but some don't like me and think I'm a gold digger. One of them is his cousin Matt, male 33. He's been making rude comments about us from the first day that we met. Last night, I was invited to one of their family gatherings. Matt was also there. He made some comments about how Kyle only got a younger girlfriend because he's rich and I'm after his money. Usually I don't answer because I don't want to cause drama, but this time I couldn't stop myself. So I told him, "Of course you would think like this. With a personality like yours, I don't think any of your girlfriends ever wanted you for anything other than money." Now half of the family hates me and calls me the jerk. Kyle and his parents are on my side, but I got some rude messages from Matt's siblings and parents who called me a jerk. I think OP's not the jerk. I think this is if the shoe fits. You want to needlessly go around and accuse people of being something they're not? Well, OP only went and played the same exact game. Just Matt realizes, hey, it kind of hurts when those things are said, right? But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another Am I the Jerk Here story that was crazier than any of the ones in this video, click on that left video. Or if you missed my latest video, click on the right. That said though, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.